Hi, Haley here. Today I am going to demonstrate for you the various types of make one below increases. Similar to other increases, make one below increases have both right and left leaning types. Now, they can be decorative or they can be inconspicuous. You can do them on the knit side of a stockinette fabric or on the purl side. They're really very versatile. First of all, I'm going to demonstrate for you the knit one below right. This is a right leaning decrease, and I'm going to show you how to do it both on the edge of the fabric and toward the center. If you're going to do it on the edge of the fabric, if this is something that is going to be seamed, I would recommend knitting the first stitch. Okay, now I'm going to knit the stitch that I intend to increase and drop it off the needle, and then I'm going to go in, not the stitch directly below because that will undo the stitch that I've already done, but I'm going to go in 2 rows below and knit up that stitch. Alright, so that guy is done. See how it's increased right there? Alright, now I'm going to increase in this stitch over here toward the center. So I'm going to knit over to that area. Again, for a right leaning decrease, you knit the stitch that you intend to, a right leaning increase, you knit the stitch first, and then you go in 2 rows below and knit that up. Alright, so this is the right half of my fabric, and I've done 2 right leaning increases, one on the edge and one in the center. And if you look very closely, as you start to stack these on top of each other, you start to see that the stitch that gets knitted, not the one that's knitted below, but the existing stitch that gets knitted is actually the one that looks like the increase. So I'm going to slip my marker, and now I'm going to do a knit one below left. Alright, so this one's a little bit different because on the right one I had already knitted the stitch, so I had to go 2 rows below. I haven't knitted this stitch yet, so I only need to go 1 row below and knit up that stitch, like so. And then knit the stitch on my needle. And there's a left leaning knit one below. I'm going to do one more over on the edge of the fabric. Alright, so I'm going to go in below and knit up the stitch, and then knit the stitch on my needle, then my edge stitch. It's important when you're doing this type of increase to make sure that you're not making your below stitch too tight, otherwise it can kind of pull. So try to leave a little bit of an extra loop there. It doesn't have to be excessive, but just enough to give it a little bit of leeway. Those are the knit one below increases, right and left leaning. Alright, so here I have done 3 rows of knit one below increases. I've increased on each edge, and I've also increased on each side of my center marker. And you can see it doesn't leave any holes. It's nearly invisible. And what's also interesting is that when you turn it upside down, it's decorative that way too, because you see it almost looks like a stitch that runs upside down right there. So this is something that you could use for a top-down raglan, and this is where the decorative part comes in. Looks good both ways. Alright, so now I'm going to demonstrate for you the purl one below increases. Just like the knit one below increases, there are both right and left leaning ones. It's difficult to, I should point out at this point that it is difficult to stack, say I did increases on the knit side and then I would increase in the same stitches on the purl side. This particular increase, it's difficult to get them to stack nicely and look the way you want them to. It gets sort of tight because it turns out that you're always working into the same stitch. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I have knitted a row, I purled a row and then I knitted a row. Sorry, everything looks backward in the camera. So, like the knitted below increases, I am going to work the first stitch. And now, when I was working on the knit side, I did right leaning increases here and I did left leaning increases here. I really want to keep my increases all going in the same direction viewed from the knit side of the fabric. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do right leaning purls here and I'm going to do left leaning purls here. And they're really the same principle as the knitted ones. So for the right leaning, you work the stitch first and then you go into, not the stitch below because that'll undo this one, you want to go in 2 rows below and work that stitch up. Kind of loosen that up. I'm working over to my center here. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do a right leaning purl one below. So I'm going to work the stitch first. Now I'm going to go in 2 rows below. This is kind of tricky. Make sure you hold your stitches onto your right needle with your index finger or some finger because they want to slip off. Yeah, I missed it. Sometimes it's difficult to get that through. There we go. Now I'm letting that loosen up a little bit so that it's not super, super tight. Slip my marker. Now I am going to do left leaning increases over here on the purl side. So I haven't worked this stitch yet, so I can go into the stitch below. I'm going to do that, purl that, leave that kind of loose, and then work the actual stitch on my needle. And I'm going to purl across. Alright, so here I'm at my last increase, so I'm going to go in 1 below because I haven't worked that. I'm going to purl there. Then I'm going to purl the actual stitch and work my last one. So there you have it. Purl 1 below increases and knit 1 below increases. Thank you very much and happy stitching.